My family forgot to invite me to Christmas, so I bought a luxury mountain cabin without telling them. Now their hotel is canceled, a blizzard is raging, and they're freezing on my doorstep begging to be let in. I'm Sophia, and this is my story of serving revenge cold. Hit that subscribe button right now to find out if I open the door. The smell of cinnamon and burnt sugar always hit me earlier than it did normal people. For most, Christmas started in December. For me, it started the second the Halloween pumpkins began to rot. I sat cross-legged on my beige living room rug, a glass of Merlot in one hand and my leather-bound planner in the other. My blonde hair was tied up in a messy bun, secured by a pencil I'd forgotten was there. November 14th. To anyone else, just a Tuesday. To me, it was strategy day. I uncapped my pen, the gift list. Okay, I muttered to the empty room. Mom needs that specific cashmere blend from Nordstrom. Ashley, maybe a spa day gift card? She's been complaining about her back. I wrote their names down with a flourish. I loved this part. I loved the giving, the wrapping, the look on people's faces when they realized I'd actually listened to what they wanted. Being an interior designer meant I was paid to notice details, but with my family, I did it for free. I picked up my phone, tapping on my mother's contact photo, a blurry picture of her holding a glass of wine. I needed to know the dates. Last year, we did Christmas Eve at Aunt Carol's. The year before, it was at my parents' house. I wanted to make sure I didn't schedule any client installs during the family gathering. The phone rang 4 times before she picked up. The background noise was loud, clinking silverware and laughter. "Hello, Sophia." Her voice sounded distracted. "Hey, Mom," I said, leaning back against the sofa. "Sorry to bother you. I'm just blocking out my calendar for December. I wanted to know which days we're doing the big dinner this year so I don't book any clients." There was a pause, a long one. The background laughter seemed to sharpen, cutting through the silence on the line. "Oh," she said. The tone wasn't warm. It was the specific, high-pitched tone she used when she broke a vase and tried to hide the pieces. "You're asking about Christmas?" "Yeah. Is it the 24th or the 25th this year?" "Well, honey," she cleared her throat. "Actually, we're doing something a little different this year. The whole family, Aunt Carol, Uncle Mike, Ashley, her husband, the kids, we decided to mix it up." I smiled, tightening my grip on the pen. "That sounds fun. What's the plan? A restaurant?" "No, Colorado." I blinked. "Colorado? Like a trip?" "Yes, we found this massive Airbnb near Breckenridge. Ski in, ski out. The kids are going to lose their minds. We booked it, oh gosh, almost 3 weeks ago. We got such a steal." The pen slipped from my fingers and rolled onto the rug. 3 weeks ago? Yeah. And when were you going to tell me? "Oh, stop it, Sophia," she snapped, her defensiveness kicking in instantly. "Don't get dramatic. Honestly, we just assumed you were busy. You're always working on those houses of yours. Plus, the place only sleeps 12 comfortably, and with the kids and Ashley's in-laws coming too, we just figured you'd be relieved not to have to travel." 12 people. My parents, my sister and her husband, the 3 kids, Aunt Carol and Uncle Mike, Ashley's in-laws. They had done the math. They had counted heads. And when they got to 13, I was the one they cut. Right, I managed to say. My throat felt like I'd swallowed sawdust. Relieved. Exactly. You can have a quiet holiday. Get some rest. You look tired lately anyway. She didn't wait for a response. Look, dinner is arriving. We'll FaceTime you on Christmas morning, okay? Love you. Click. I stared at the black screen of my phone. The apartment was dead silent. The smell of the cinnamon candle suddenly felt cloying, sickeningly sweet. I looked down at my planner. Mom, cashmere scarf. Ashley, spa day. I picked up the pen, pressed the tip hard against the paper, and drew a thick, black line through both names. Then I ripped the page out, crumpled it into a ball, and threw it across the room. The next morning felt gray. Not just the sky, which was spitting a miserable mix of rain and sleet against my apartment window, but the air inside my lungs. I went through the motions of making coffee, but the silence in my kitchen was heavy. Usually, the quiet was my sanctuary. Today, it felt like a waiting room for a life that wasn't happening. I needed to work. Work was the only thing that didn't talk back and didn't forget me. I drove to my office downtown, blasting the radio to drown out the memory of my mother's voice. We just assumed you were busy. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat. It wasn't Mom, and it wasn't Ashley. It was Marcus, a real estate broker I worked with frequently on flip projects. Sophia, Marcus said, his voice clipped and fast. I know you said you weren't looking for a project until spring, but something just landed on my desk. It's a tragedy, honestly. Total distress sale. I'm not in the mood, Marcus, I said, merging onto the highway. Unless it's a padded room where I can scream for 3 days, I don't want it. It's not a padded room. It's an A-frame on Juniper Ridge. I braked a little too hard. Juniper Ridge? That's 2 hours north. That's serious money. Not today, it isn't. He lowered his voice. Tech CEO bought it, started a massive reno, then got indicted for fraud yesterday. Assets are freezing, but he needs liquid cash now to pay his legal retainer. He's dumping the property. Fully furnished with the high-end stuff he already shipped in. He wants out by Friday. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. Send me the address. 2 hours later, the gray slush of the city had turned into blinding white powder. My SUV crunched up a winding gravel driveway lined with towering pines that looked like they were holding up the sky. And then I saw it. It sat on a cliff edge, overlooking a valley of untouched white. It was a massive A-frame, sharp and striking, made of black cedar and glass. It looked lonely. It looked arrogant. It looked perfect. Marcus met me at the door, shivering in a suit that wasn't built for altitude. Freezing up here, he complained, fiddling with the lockbox. But look at that view. We stepped inside, and the cold vanished. The previous owner had installed radiant floor heating before he ran out of luck. The place smelled of sawdust and expensive leather. The main room was a cathedral of glass, the ceiling soaring 30 feet high. In the center was a stone fireplace big enough to roast a pig in. There were boxes everywhere, expensive Italian sofas still wrapped in plastic, a chandelier made of antlers that probably cost more than my car, sitting on the floor waiting to be hung. It needs work, Marcus said, kicking a loose piece of trim. Kitchen isn't fully installed. The deck needs sealing. It's a mess. I walked over to the massive wall of windows. The valley stretched out below, silent and indifferent. There were no neighbors, no noise, probably. "He wants $350 for it," Marcus said, "cash, as is." My heart hammered against my ribs. 350,000. That was my entire savings account. That was the someday fund I'd been building for a wedding that hadn't happened and a house I hadn't found. I thought about the Airbnb in Colorado. I pictured Ashley posting selfies with Mom, captioned "family time," while I sat in my beige apartment watching reruns. I looked around this jagged, beautiful, half-finished house. It was rejected, just like me. It was messy and chaotic, but the bones were strong. "I'll take it," I whispered. Marcus blinked. "Sophia, the inspection alone." "No inspection," I said, turning to him. The sudden rush of adrenaline made my fingertips tingle. "I'll wire the money tomorrow, but I want the keys today." "You're crazy," Marcus laughed nervously. "You're going to spend Christmas fixing a toilet?" I looked back at the snow falling softly against the glass, sealing us in. "No," I smiled, and for the first time in 24 hours, it reached my eyes. "I'm going to spend Christmas being the queen of my own mountain." The first week of December was a blur of contractor dust and sheer exhilaration. I wasn't just an interior designer anymore. I was a general in a war against time. I hired a local crew from the nearby town, 2 brothers named Hank and Bo who didn't talk much but worked like machines. By December 10th, the kitchen was functional. By the 12th, the chandelier was hung, casting warm, golden light over the great room. I spent my days hauling firewood and arranging furniture. I unwrapped the Italian leather sofas and draped them with thick faux fur throws I'd brought from the city. I positioned a massive spruce tree right in front of the center window, decorating it not with my usual tasteful minimalist ornaments, but with lights, thousands of them. I wanted this place to be visible from space. It was lonely work, but it was a good kind of lonely. It was the kind of silence you chose, not the kind forced upon you. On the evening of December 14th, a heavy snow began to fall. I sat on the rug in front of the roaring fire, a mug of hot cocoa in my hand. The room was glowing. Outside, the world was a terrifying shade of blue-black, but in here it was safe. It was luxurious. It was mine. I pulled out my phone. I hadn't looked at social media in days. I had 5 missed texts from Mom, all variations of, "Did you get the invite to Aunt Carol's New Year's brunch?" Not a single question about where I was or why I hadn't called. My thumb hovered over the Instagram icon. I was a private person. I rarely posted flashiness. But the resentment I'd buried under layers of drywall and paint suddenly flared up. I stood up and walked to the window. I framed the shot carefully. The reflection of the fire in the glass, the towering Christmas tree, the expensive leather furniture, and the snow swirling violently outside. I took a video. I panned slowly, letting the camera capture the sheer scale of the high ceilings and the coziness of the fire. I added a simple caption, "Home for the holidays." No location tag. I hit post. I tossed the phone onto the sofa and went to the kitchen to refill my mug. When I came back 10 minutes later, my screen was lit up. Notifications were rolling in like a slot machine payout. "Oh my God, where is this?" Sophia, did you win the lottery? Is this a hotel? And then the one I was waiting for. A comment from AshBash89. Ashley. Whose house is that? Is that your boyfriend's? Why didn't you tell us you were dating a millionaire, lol? I felt a dark, cold satisfaction bloom in my chest. She assumed it was a man's house. Of course she did. In her mind, I was the single, working sister who lived in a sensible apartment. I couldn't possibly own a fortress. I typed a reply, my fingers moving coolly over the glass. No boyfriend, just me. Bought myself a little Christmas present. Poof. I watched the 3 little dots of her typing bubble appear immediately, then disappear, then appear again. My phone started ringing. It was Mom. I stared at the caller ID, the picture of her smiling face lighting up the dark room. The fire crackled behind me, a sound like applause. I reached out and pressed the volume button on the side of the phone, silencing the ring. Not tonight, Linda, I whispered to the empty room. Tonight, I'm busy. 3 days passed. The silence of the mountain was addictive. I had established a routine. Coffee by the window at 7 a.m., a hike along the ridgeline if the snow wasn't too deep, and afternoons spent sketching new designs for the loft. I hadn't spoken to anyone. My phone was mostly on Do Not Disturb, accumulating a backlog of confused texts from Ashley and passive-aggressive voicemails from my dad asking why I was being secretive. It was December 18th. I was in the kitchen, slicing a Honeycrisp apple, when the peace was shattered. My phone, sitting on the granite island, didn't just buzz, it convulsed. A call from Mom. I let it go to voicemail. 2 seconds later, it rang again. I ignored it. Then a text popped up. Emergency. Pick up now, please, Sophia. My stomach dropped. The resentment I held was strong, but the daughter in me, the one trained to fix things, was hardwired. I wiped my hands on a towel and answered. Mom, is everyone okay? It's a scam. She wasn't just crying, she was wailing. It was a sound I hadn't heard since my grandmother died. Sophia, it's all gone. What's gone? Slow down. The house, the rental in Colorado. She took a jagged breath. Your father tried to call the owner to confirm the key code for tomorrow because we were packing the car. The number is disconnected. The listing, it's deleted from the website. We called the support line. They said the profile was flagged for fraud. I leaned against the kitchen island, the cold stone seeping into my lower back. Oh, Mom, I'm sorry. That's awful. And I meant it. It was a nightmare scenario. We lost the deposit, she sobbed. $3,000, Sophia. But that's not even the worst part. We can't get anything else. I've been looking online for an hour. Everything is booked. Every hotel, every cabin. It's a week before Christmas. Maybe you can just stay home, I suggested gently. Do a staycation? Stay home? Her voice sharpened, the hysteria momentarily replaced by indignation. We can't stay home. Ashley told the kids they were seeing snow. They have their little snowsuits packed. Cooper has been crying for an hour. We can't ruin Christmas for the babies. I bit the inside of my cheek. Whatever happened to family is what matters. Well, I don't know what to tell you, I said, my voice cooling. That really sucks. There was a pause on the line. A wet sniffle. Then the tone shifted. It wasn't sad anymore. It was calculating. "Sophia," she said slowly, "that video you posted, that house." My grip on the phone tightened. What about it? "It's in the mountains, right? There was snow outside the window." "Yes." "And you bought it? It's yours?" "Yes." "How big is it?" The question came out fast, breathless. "Mom, does it have bedrooms? How many bathrooms? Is there internet?" "Mom, stop." "It's perfect." Her voice was suddenly bright, manic energy flooding through the receiver. "Oh, thank God. It's a miracle. We don't need Colorado. We can just come to you. It's even better. We won't have to fly." I closed my eyes. I could see it happening in her head, the mental Tetris of moving her problems into my sanctuary. "Mom," I said firm, "no." "Don't be silly," she rushed on, ignoring me completely. "We can be there by tomorrow evening if we drive straight through. Ashley has an air mattress we can bring for the kids. We'll bring the food. I have a 20-pound turkey defrosting right now. Just text me the address." "Mom," I said it loud enough that it echoed off the high beams of the ceiling. I said, "No, you can't come here." The silence that followed was deafening. "Excuse me," she whispered. "What did you just say to me?" I said, "No," I repeated. My voice didn't shake, which surprised me. My heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs, but my voice was steady. "This isn't a family vacation house, Mom. This is my home, and I'm not hosting." "Not hosting?" She laughed, a sharp, incredulous sound. "Sophia, this is an emergency. Your sister is in tears. Your nephews have their bags packed by the door. You're really going to tell them that their aunt, who is sitting all alone in a mansion, won't let them in?" "I'm not sitting in a mansion," I said, walking over to the window. The snow was falling harder now, thick white flakes that blurred the tree line. "I'm in a construction zone. It's not child-proof. It's not set up for 12 people." "We don't care about the condition," she shouted. "We'll sleep on the floor. My God, Sophia, why are you being so difficult? You were begging to know the Christmas plans a month ago." "Exactly," I snapped. The anger I'd been suppressing finally bubbled up, hot and acidic. "I asked. I tried to plan. And you told me there was no room for me. You forgot to invite me, remember?" "That was a misunderstanding. We told you that." "No, Mom, it wasn't." I pressed my forehead against the cold glass. "You booked a house for everyone but me. You made a choice, and now I've made mine. I'm spending Christmas alone." "You are being incredibly selfish," she spat. The word hung in the air, heavy and ugly. "After everything we've done for you, Dad is going to be furious when I tell him this." "Tell him whatever you want." "Sophia, if you don't send me that address right now, don't bother coming to Easter. Don't bother coming to anything." It was the ultimate threat, the nuclear option she always used to keep me in line. Usually, it worked. Usually, the fear of being ostracized made me fold, apologize, and fix everything. But looking out at the endless, quiet white of the mountains, the threat felt empty. I realized I didn't care about Easter. I didn't care about being the good daughter who sat at the kids' table. "Okay," I said softly. "Okay?" She sounded hopeful. "Okay, you'll send it?" "No," I said. Okay, I won't come to Easter. I pulled the phone away from my ear. She was still screaming something, my name or maybe a curse, but I pressed the red button and ended the call. The silence rushed back in, immediate and absolute. My hands were shaking. I set the phone down on the counter face down. 10 minutes later, it started buzzing again. Then a ping, then another. I picked it up. A text from Dad. "Your mother is hysterical. Stop playing games and send the location. We are family." A text from Ashley. "I can't believe you. Cooper asks why Aunt Sophia hates him. Nice job." A text from her husband, Mark. "Look, we have the turkey. We'll split the gas money. Just let us in." They weren't asking. They were demanding. They felt entitled to my space, my peace, my home, simply because their plan had failed. I went to the settings on my phone. I scrolled down to focus modes. I created a new one. I named it Fortress. I selected Allow Calls From None. I activated it. The buzzing stopped. I poured myself a glass of wine, walked to the fireplace, and threw another log on the flames. Sparks flew up the chimney, disappearing into the cold night air. I was alone, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of it. Christmas Eve fell on the mountain like a heavy wool blanket. By 2 p.m., the sky was a bruised purple color, and the wind had started to sing through the gaps in the cedar siding. The weatherman on the radio, my only connection to the outside world, warned of a historic system moving through the pass. I felt safe. My pantry was stocked with wine, cheese, and enough pasta to last a month. I had spent the morning baking cinnamon rolls, the scent of yeast and sugar warring with the smell of the coming storm. I hadn't turned my focus mode off. I assumed they were at home, probably bad-mouthing me over a store-bought ham, posting vague, sad quotes on Facebook about loyalty. I was wrong. At 4:45 p.m., I was curled up on the sofa, reading a book, when a flash of light swept across the ceiling. I froze. I lived at the end of a 3-mile private gravel road. There were no neighbors. No delivery trucks came up here in this weather. I stood up slowly, clutching my book to my chest like a shield, and walked to the massive A-frame window. Down at the bottom of the driveway, cutting through the swirling white chaos, were 2 pairs of high beams. They moved slowly, fighting the deepening drifts, a dark SUV and a silver minivan. My breath hitched in my throat. No, it wasn't possible. I hadn't given them the address. I hadn't even told them the name of the town. I watched, paralyzed, as the cars fishtailed slightly near the final curve. They were determined. They were reckless. The vehicles pulled up to the flat clearing in front of the house, their engines idling. The headlights illuminated the falling snow, making it look like hyperspace. My phone, which I'd left on the coffee table, lit up. A notification broke through my fortress mode because of the repeated calls emergency override feature. Marcus, realtor. "Sophia, I'm so sorry. Your dad called the office screaming. He threatened to sue the firm if we didn't disclose the location of the property you just closed on. My secretary panicked. I think they're coming." I stared at the text, then back out the window. The doors of the minivan flew open. The wind immediately snatched at them. Out stepped my father, wearing a parka that looked too thin for this altitude. then Mark, my brother-in-law, then Ashley, bundled in a white fur coat that was already getting soaked. They started unloading suitcases, a cooler, a portable playpen. They weren't checking to see if I was home. They weren't coming to the door to ask permission. They were unpacking. They were moving in. I watched Ashley point at the house, saying something I couldn't hear over the wind, laughing. She gestured to the massive, lit-up Christmas tree visible through the glass. She looked triumphant. They had called my bluff. They had driven 6 hours through a blizzard, betting everything on the fact that I was Sophia, sweet pushover Sophia, and that once they were physically on my doorstep, freezing and pitiful, I would crumble. They bet that my guilt was stronger than my self-respect. I watched my father struggle up the icy steps, his face red from the cold and the exertion. He reached the massive oak front door. Bam, bam, bam. The heavy wood shuddered under his fist. "Sophia, open up! It's freezing out here!" I stood in the center of the warm, golden room. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. This was it, the moment I had spent 32 years avoiding. I set my book down on the side table. I didn't smooth my hair. I didn't check my reflection. I walked to the door. I turned the heavy iron deadbolt. Click. It was the loudest sound in the world. I cracked the door open, and the storm instantly punched me in the face. The wind howled, spitting ice crystals that stung my cheeks like needles. My father was standing right there on the welcome mat, his hand raised to pound again. Behind him, huddled like penguins against the gale, stood Ashley, Mark, and my mother. I could see the kids in the minivan, their faces pressed against the fogged-up glass, watching. "Jesus, Sophia," Dad barked, pushing forward immediately. "About time. Get out of the way. The wind is cutting right through us." He moved to step past me, expecting me to shrink back, to usher them into the warmth, to take their coats and apologize for the wait. It was muscle memory for him. I was the door they walked through. I didn't move. I planted my feet on the slate entryway floor, grabbed the edge of the doorframe with one hand, and held the heavy door handle with the other, creating a barricade. Dad bumped into me, surprised by the resistance. He looked down, his eyebrows knitting together in confusion. "Sophia, move." "No," I said. The wind tore the word from my mouth, but he heard it. "What did you say?" He blinked, snow catching in his eyelashes. I said, "No, you aren't coming in." Behind him, Ashley pushed forward, her teeth chattering audibly. "Sophia, stop joking. It's literally blizzard conditions. My kids are in the car. Open the damn door." "You should probably get them back on the road then," I said, my voice eerily calm against the chaos of the storm. "Before the pass closes." "Have you lost your mind?" Mom shrieked from the back, clutching her purse to her chest. "We drove 6 hours. We brought the food. We're your family." "Family?" I looked at her, then back at my father. "You're the same family that forgot I existed 3 weeks ago. You booked a ski trip for 12 people and didn't spare a single thought for me until your plan fell apart. I'm not your family tonight. I'm your backup plan. I'm your free hotel." "We're sorry about the invite," Mark yelled, trying to sound reasonable but looking furious. "We apologized. Now let us in, or I'm kicking this door down." "If you kick this door down, Mark, I'll call the sheriff," I said. "He lives 4 miles down the ridge. I've already met him." It was a lie, but I delivered it with enough cold steel that Mark flinched. "You can't do this," Dad said, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous growl. "If you close this door, Sophia, you are done. Do you understand me? You are cutting yourself out of this family." I looked at them, really looked at them. I saw the entitlement etched into their frozen faces. They didn't look like they loved me. They looked like they wanted to consume me. They wanted my heat, my food, my space, and my compliance. I realized then that I had already been cut out of the family years ago. I was just the only one who hadn't admitted it yet. "I have a suggestion," I said. I reached into the pocket of my cardigan and pulled out a slip of paper I'd written on earlier, just in case. "There's a Motel 6 in Pineville. It's 20 miles back down the highway. I called ahead. They have vacancies. They leave the light on." I held the paper out. Dad stared at it like it was a poisonous snake. He didn't take it. "Go to hell," he whispered. "Merry Christmas," I said. I stepped back and shoved the heavy oak door shut. I threw the deadbolt. Click. Then I threw the secondary lock. Clack. I pressed my back against the wood, sliding down until I hit the floor. I could hear them screaming on the other side. I heard a heavy thud, someone kicking the wood. I heard Ashley sobbing. I pulled my knees to my chest and waited. 5 minutes later, I heard the engines rev, then the crunch of tires on snow. The sounds faded, growing fainter and fainter, until there was nothing left but the whistle of the wind and the crackle of the fire behind me. I stayed on the floor for a long time, shaking, but I wasn't shaking from the cold. I was shaking from the adrenaline of finally being free. Christmas morning broke with a silence so profound it felt holy. I woke up naturally, without an alarm, and without my mother banging pots and pans in a kitchen 2 rooms away. I lay in the massive, king-sized bed, buried under layers of down comforters, watching the sun crest over the ridge. The storm had broken. The sky was a piercing, impossible blue, and the world outside was buried under 3 feet of sparkling, untouched white. I didn't feel guilty. That was the surprise. I checked myself for it, like feeling for a broken bone after a fall, but it wasn't there. I just felt light. I spent the day in my pajamas. I made coffee. I ate a cinnamon roll standing in front of the window. I watched a herd of elk pick their way through the deep snow at the edge of the tree line. It was the best Christmas of my life. The silence held for a week. New Year's Eve arrived, bringing a thaw. The roads were finally plowed, and the UPS truck made its first trek up my driveway. The driver dropped a single thick envelope on my porch and waved before retreating back down the mountain. It had no return address, but I knew the handwriting. It was jagged and heavy-handed, my father's. I took it inside and sat by the fire. The paper felt heavy, expensive. I stared at it for a long time, listening to the wood pop and hiss in the hearth. Part of me wanted to burn it unopened. Part of me, the little girl who just wanted to be good enough, needed to know. I used a knife to slit the top. There was a single sheet of yellow legal pad paper inside, folded 3 times. Sophia. We stayed at the Motel 6. The heater in the room was broken. Your mother cried for 2 days straight. Ashley refused to talk to me. It was the most miserable Christmas we have ever had. I wanted to come back up there and tear that door off its hinges. I was so angry I could barely see straight. I felt disrespected. I felt like you had betrayed the family code. But about 3 days in, while sitting in that freezing motel room eating vending machine crackers, I realized something. We didn't drive 6 hours to see you. We drove 6 hours because we needed a house. You were right. We got used to you being the soft place to land. We got used to you being the one who takes the hit so everyone else can be comfortable. I don't know when we started treating you like furniture instead of family, but we did. I'm not happy with you. That stunt you pulled was cruel, but I respect it. I didn't think you had it in you. Don't call your mother yet. She's not ready. But when you are ready, I'll pick up the phone. Dad. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it back along the creases and slid it into the drawer of the side table. I didn't reach for my phone. I didn't feel the urge to fix it, to soothe his ego, or to explain myself. I didn't think you had it in you, he had written. He was right. I hadn't known either. I poured a glass of champagne, the expensive stuff I'd saved for a special occasion. I walked out onto the deck. The air was crisp, smelling of pine and cold earth. The sun was setting, painting the snow in shades of pink and violet. Down in the valley, lights were starting to flicker on in the distant town. People were gathering for parties, making resolutions they wouldn't keep, surrounding themselves with noise to drown out the quiet. I took a sip of champagne. It tasted like victory. I wasn't the backup plan anymore. I wasn't the forgotten invite. I was the owner of the house on the hill. Happy New Year, Sophia, I said to the mountains. The mountains, in their vast, enduring silence, seemed to answer back, "Welcome home."